Everything expressed here is my personal opinion and experience. Others' experiences may differ. I've been through a lot of initiations over the years. Honestly, many of them were pretty cool. And in an age that has apparently lost the ability to mark the passages of life with any kind of solemnity, that kind of communal sense of sacredness is pretty novel. But none of those temple initiations prepared me for what I just lived through. Because one of the most powerful initiations I've ever gone through didn't happen in a temple. It happened in public, under pressure, while I felt misrepresented, discounted, and gradually erased. Last month was one of the hardest of my life. Not because I was disempowered, not because I was confused, but because I had to choose integrity over acceptance. Because I refused to play a role in order to keep an institutional position. Because I decided that protecting my clarity and my integrity were much more important to me than protecting my status and my sense of belonging. I walked away from institutional power on purpose. And in doing so, I learned something that I will never forget. Real power does not come from titles or status or being part of some dude's Discord. Real power comes from alignment. Real power comes from integrity. And real power comes from the ability to pull back from your emotions, from the present, and from the mere appearance of authority. I realized that there was no power in this thing, this structure, this role, this performance, other than what I chose to put into it. And when I stepped back from it, I didn't lose power. I reclaimed it, all of it. From a system that seemed to thrive only when people stayed small. From one that, in my experience, rewarded selective self-silencing. From one I experienced as rewarding conformity and emotional self-abandonment. This wasn't just a resignation. It was a spiritual act. It was a rejection of shadow loyalty and a return to truth. Because for me, power is irreversibility. And I did something irreversible. I told the truth, and I walked away. I won't pretend it was easy. I felt everything. The grief, the anger, the loneliness of choosing wholeness when others apparently would have preferred me to fracture. And when I say that this was an initiation, I don't mean this in some kind of romantic sense. A lot of times you hear about people going through these kinds of informal initiations, and what they're really talking about is facing the consequences of impulsive actions. That's not what this was. This was a conscious decision and a controlled action. Crowley once wrote of the third degree initiation of OTO. I then proceed to the climax of its career and death and show how this sacrament both consecrates, or rather sets its seal upon, the previous procedure and gives a meaning thereto. Just as the auditing of the account enables the merchant to see his year's transactions in perspective. That's what this was. This was the auditing of an account. This was the balancing of the books. I cashed in my chips. I took what belonged to me. No more, no less. And I walked out with my integrity intact. I didn't abandon my power. I simply stopped outsourcing it. This initiation wasn't about being welcomed into the club. It was about what I was willing to sacrifice in order to be whole. And sometimes the true initiation comes after you walk out of the temple. When the robes come off, the candles are blown out, when the only authority you find that you have left is your voice, and it's still speaking, still clear, still aligned. If you're going through something like this, if you've felt yourself erased, betrayed, or punished just for staying true to yourself, let me say this. You're not alone. There are other people like you out there, and you're not broken. You may just be passing through an initiation of your own. Not the kind that they give you a sash or a little thumb ring for, but the kind where what no longer serves you burns or falls away. And then you realize you don't need a title. You were always sovereign.